All right, we are live in beautiful sunny Florida, and today, fight fans, we're going to be breaking down UFC on Fox 25, Weidman versus Gastelum in Long Island, New York. And overall, like when it comes to like an actual UFC card, this is a pretty damn good card. Maybe not live up to Fox standards, but I think we got a real fun night of action ahead of us this weekend, man. And of course, the lines are out right now, only for three of the fights, but I feel like this is definitely going to be a great card betting wise. Now, I would be wrong to not mention, and I, of course, do not hide from my losses. Of course, I did, in fact, lose that 8-unit bet on Gunnar Nelson. Very unfortunate there. Was looking good at first. He did rock Santiago in like the first 10 seconds, was looking real good. I was already starting to count the money, but shit happens in the fight game. And thankfully for the fact that I am, in fact, a long-term winner, and I was having a very good weekend up until that point. Still, even with that minus 8-unit loss right there, I still did manage to only lose, I want to say, minus 2.7 units on the weekend. So that's very manageable. I'm actually quite thankful because I had a lot of things come through for me on the weekend. I actually had a lot of good plays, and it is what it is, man. Sometimes you lose those big bets, sometimes you win them. That's the game we play, and I do look forward to smashing it here on this awesome Long Island card. And I do actually have a bet already in play for the Tuesday Night Contender Series actually tonight. Now, usually I at least wait to do these until the odds are out, but due to work schedule, just real life schedule altogether, tonight would really be the only night possible for me to do this. So I'm still here nonetheless, and I'm still gonna try my best to talk to you guys about who I plan on betting on if the line is right. And like I said, the odds are already out for 3 fights, so I actually do have a couple plays in play already. So yeah, man, anything else to get into with you guys? I really think that's just about it. Appreciate all you live viewers so much, man. We already got 15 of you guys in here. That means the world. So let's get right into breaking down this full 13. I want to say it's 13. Yeah, 13 full fight card. So first up, we got Chris Wade 11-3 taking on Frankie Perez 10-3 in the lightweight division. This is a good fight, man. This is actually a really well put together fight. I think it's good matchmaking here. I think this should be fireworks no matter if it's on the ground. I think we'll see some great scrambles. If it stays on the feet, we're going to see some exciting shit. So, man, I do slightly favor Chris Wade for a couple reasons. He is a Long Island guy. He's going to have that crowd behind him, and basically because I think his grappling skills are going to be enough to get Perez down to the ground and at least, control and grind out Perez for at least 2 of the 3 rounds. I do think he has the superior grappling skills. Frankie Perez is no slouch when it comes to grappling, but Chris Wade, he's good, man. He hung in there against the 2 of the toughest Russians in the UFC, and Islam Makhachev and Rustam Khabilov. So, and he's out grappled tons of good fighters before. Frankie Perez, he was taken down a few times by Mark Diakiese, the striker. So not really sure Frankie Perez, maybe he's worked on the grappling, but I think Chris Wade can get this to the ground and control it there. When it comes to the striking, I think Frankie Perez probably has the slight advantage there, not by much. Chris Wade, he's real sneaky on the feet. He dropped Rustam with that beautiful switch kick. So the dude's got tools on the feet, and he's got fundamentals as well. But if I had to say who has the striking advantage, I would say it slightly goes to Frankie Perez. So when it comes to betting, man, just because Perez does have that one area on lockdown, I think he can outstrike Chris Wade over the course of 3 rounds if it stays there. I'm only going to be looking to bet Chris Wade if he's in the area of like my plus 110, plus 120, and I'm guessing he's probably going to be around minus 150 here. So this is probably going to be a pass for me. I think the over is probably a good play on this fight, so we'll see what that looks like. That could be parlayable, but nonetheless, my pick here is going to be, I will say, a 29-28 decision for the Long Island boy, Chris Wade. So moving on here, man, we got Shane Burgos 9-0 taking on Fredo Pepe 13-4 in the featherweight division. Both these guys fucking huge featherweights, man, and both these guys extremely exciting fighters. I think this is going to be awesome as long as it lasts. But one thing we know about Fredo Pepe's fights, either he gets finished or he finishes a motherfucker. And here, man, I think Shane Burgos is sharp enough, well-rounded enough to where he can take Pepe out here. I think Pepe is going to come in a little crazy. Burgos is going to show him what's up. He's going to put the hands on him, probably put him away on the feet, man. I think Shane Burgos can put him away on the feet here. He's got to be careful on the ground because Pepe, honestly, man, okay, so I think Shane Burgos probably actually has like the better overall grappling and like has the fundamentals down more, but Godofredo Pepe is extremely sneaky to where he can slide submissions in on guys out of nowhere. So he definitely has to be careful. I think Shane Burgos is competent enough on the ground to not get caught by any kind of crazy shit or even flying submissions. So I would definitely stay away from the clinch if I were Shane Burgos. Watch out for all that those flying arm bars and whatnot. But I think Shane Burgos can keep this on the feet, and I think he's a much sharper, more technical boxer, overall striker than Godofredo Pepe. I think Pepe is going to come in a little crazy, get cracked off the bat, never find his feet under him, start going for takedowns or some crazy shit, and Shane Burgos is going to eventually put him away. I do like the under in this fight, and I do like Shane Burgos, and I like Shane Burgos in the distance. So we're going to see what all those lines look at right now, but I am fairly confident in Shane Burgos getting this done in the first round via strikes, man. So official pick, Shane Burgos via first round KO. It's not going to be some crazy 4 or 5 unit bet, though, because it's tough to bet too much, I should say, against a guy who's just such a wild card like Godofredo Pepe. But if you want to stay away from this one from a betting perspective and watch it as a fan, I don't blame you there at all, because this should be super fun. But yeah, I got Burgos first round KO. So moving on here, heavyweight division, we got Timothy Big Dick Johnson 11-3 taking on Junior Albini, the newcomer, 13-2. Now I actually wanted to look at something real quick. I was meaning to look at this before I went live, but I completely forgot. I want to say this is Albini's first fight outside of Brazil. He had one fight outside of Brazil, but it was in Serbia, and he won that fight, first round KO, but that guy was 2-3. So first time fighting in the States, and he's got a really, really tough fight in front of him. Timothy Johnson is a real solid motherfucker. The dude, 11-3, that's a pretty damn good record. He's a full-sized heavyweight, big dude. Obviously, being a great wrestler definitely helps against guys who don't have the best takedown defense, and I'm not convinced this guy, Junior Albini, has the best takedown defense. Timothy Johnson, he was able to neutralize great strikers like Marcin Tybura, like Alexander Volkov, and I do fully believe Timothy Johnson was absolutely robbed in that Volkov fight. I thought that was a clear decision. Crazy that he didn't get it, but it's really amazing that Timothy Johnson was able to get those victories over Tybura and Volkov. Great strikers. I'm calling it a win over Volkov. That was a bad decision. I know Volkov got that win, but that was a Johnson win. Really, the only guy that was able to beat Timothy Johnson was Jared Rolschalt, and that's basically just a tough matchup for Timothy Johnson because Rolschalt is the better wrestler. So you take Timothy's biggest strength and you pretty much take it away by putting him against an even better wrestler in Rolschalt. So that was just a nightmare matchup for him. Second fight in the UFC, but Timothy Johnson's kind of formed himself into a UFC vet at this point. This is actually his 6th fight in the UFC, taking on a newcomer, a young newcomer that is, first time in the States. Albini's probably going to be looking to stuff those takedowns, wing those bombs, try to put Timothy Johnson away. But like I said, we've seen much better, more experienced strikers like Marcin Tybura, like Alexander Volkov, not be able to do that. So I love Timothy Johnson here. I think he should be able to grind this one out, make it super ugly, probably a decision. I like Timothy Johnson here via, I'll say, a 30-26 decision. I think he just smothers the newcomer here. I think unless it's absolutely outrageous, minus 400, minus 450, I think Timothy Johnson is extremely, extremely parlayable in this spot, even with the fact that it's a heavyweight fight. I love Timothy Johnson here, man. I think I haven't seen anything from Albini that shows he can stuff the takedowns or get Timothy Johnson off of him on the cage. Timothy Johnson, he's got a big size advantage on him here. And another thing, Timothy Johnson, even for like such a huge guy, he's got damn good cardio on him. The dude's actually looks pretty fresh in the third round most of the time. So love Timothy Johnson here. 30-27 decision. I will more than likely have him in some parlays. So moving on here, man, I love this fight. We got Brian Kelleher, 17-7, taking on Marlon Chito Vera, 11-3 in the bantamweight division. So, man, Marlon Vera coming off that one of the craziest moments in UFC history, retiring Brad Pickett, knocking him out in the third round after Pickett was on his way to leaving the sport on a W, and Marlon Chito Vera was able to pull out some heart and knock him out in the third round there in Brad Pickett's home country. So that really shows the kind of heart and determination this kid has. But let's be real here. Marlon Chito Vera was down 2-0 against Brad Pickett in his retirement fight, and I've said it time after time. Guys that have retirement on their mind, guys that are old like that, I have a reason to believe that they're not the best fighters. And the fact that Chito is down 2-0 to Brad Pickett, who I think has been shot for a very long time, I think that shows that Marlon Chito Vera just quite does not have the skills down. He's not that great of a fighter. And I bet Marlon Chito Vera there too, just because, like I said, I love to fade those retirement guys. And he did pick up the victory, credit to him, but I'm just really not too big of a believer in the skills of Marlon Vera. And then this Brian Kelleher kid. So I severely underestimated him. I had something like 2 or 3 units on Yuri Alcantara. He goes out there. He's losing the striking exchanges at first, but then he's able to get that disgusting guillotine choke on Yuri. Just very quick tap. The squeeze this Kelleher kid has must just be crazy. And looking back on his record, man, it was kind of silly to underestimate him here against Yuri Alcantara. I mean, the dude has wins over current UFC fighters like Andre Sukumtov, and has wins over good guys. You know, he went 3 rounds with Jimmy Rivera, and dude's good, man. And I fully believe he's probably better than Marlon Chito Vera everywhere. I like Brian Kelleher via decision. I think he can outstrike Marlon Vera, out-grapple Marlon Vera. So I got Brian Kelleher here. I will give Marlon Vera the benefit of the doubt and say he does last 3 rounds, but I got Brian Kelleher via a 30-27 decision, and maybe, quite maybe, I will have a play on him if the price is right. I'm not looking to lay 2-1 or more on Brian Kelleher, but the price is right. We'll see, man, but definitely solid on Kelleher here. So next up, fun fight, man. I like this one a lot. We got Kyle Bochniak, 7-1, taking on Jeremy Kennedy, 10-0 in the featherweight division. I think this is actually a quite evenly matched fight, to where I think the striking exchanges are going to be extremely close here, but I think Jeremy Kennedy is just better at making it his fight. I feel like he's the grittier guy. He's more of the natural fighter, if I'm explaining that correctly. I just feel like he does a good job making his fight, and defeating Honey Jason in Honey Jason's home country is quite the hell of a feather on the cap of Jeremy Kennedy there, especially overcoming adversity in that fight. He's a very smart fighter, has high fight IQ, so even if Bachniak has a strong start here, I can see Jeremy Kennedy taking over just based on the fight IQ. Bachniak, he is 1-1 in the UFC. Kennedy 2-0. Bachniak, he lost to... Honestly, Bachniak should be 0-2 in the UFC. So Bachniak clearly lost that fight to Rosa, although he had his moments. And then the Enrique Barzola fight. I had a bet on Kyle Bachniak there against Barzola. And even I think Barzola won that fight. That was kind of a robbery, in my opinion. I think Barzola had that one. So we're looking at a potential 0-2 versus a 2-0 in the UFC here. Now, I don't think this is a gimme fight for Jeremy Kennedy by any means, because I actually kind of favor Kyle Bochniak when it comes to the striking. If he can keep range and box Kennedy up, I wouldn't be shocked entirely. But I think Jeremy Kennedy can can utilize a game plan here to where he can grapple with Bochniak, land takedowns, push him up against the cage. I think he's quite able to do that. So I'm going to go with Jeremy Kennedy via, I'll say a 29-28 decision here for Junior Bacon Cheeseburger. I probably won't have a bet there just because I think that's a tough fight. But yeah, man. So moving on here, we got fun. It's more fun than anything, but we got Damian Grabowski 20-4 taking on Chase, the Vanilla Gorilla GIF King Sherman. So it's real funny how Chase Sherman has turned into quite the cult icon that he is in this MMA world. Everyone seems to love this guy now, and I give him all the credit in the world for the marketing he's doing for himself. He's doing a very good job. He's multiplied his fan base by quite a bit since that win against Rashad Coulter, and I see way too many damn people on here talking about how, Chase Sherman, he's going on, he's gaining his fan base by becoming the GIF King on Twitter. That's all he's really got, though. He's a terrible fighter, and while I do rate him slightly below average in that heavyweight division, he's got some good skills to him, man, and a lot of things that will pay off in that heavyweight division. So, the leg kicks, I do believe when it comes to heavyweight standards, he does have some elite leg kicks. He can really put those on guys and fuck them up, to be quite honest. That Rashad Coulter's a below average heavyweight too, but I mean, I rank him above Damian Grabowski. Rashad Coulter's not terrible, and Chase Sherman was just ripping him up with those leg kicks, man. He's shown that in the past too. He's broken guys' legs outside of the UFC. Chase Sherman's a very good mobile heavyweight. He's a good size for the division. There's things to like about Chase Sherman, of course. I've seen some people say Chase Sherman has a terrible chin, and I would disagree with that, man. I think he's actually got quite the great chin, especially when it comes to heavyweight. Those dudes hit so hard. So to only be knocked out that one time against Walt Harris, and I could be wrong about that. I believe that's the only time he got knocked out. No, he got knocked out by Alex Nicholson. Jesus Christ, I need to do my research more. But man, I've seen Chase Sherman take some good shots, so I will say he's got a good chin, but I don't think that's going to matter here against Damian Grabowski, who doesn't necessarily hit that hard in the first place, man. So Damian Grabowski, take away the fact that he's coming off a complete life changer against Anthony Hamilton. I know people who were at that crowd for that Hamilton Grabowski fight, and I was hearing all kinds of things about how the crowd was just in kind of a frozen state because Damian Garbowski was out cold for many, many minutes, and it got scary there for a second. So I do believe not only did he get his life changed, he's really not that great of a fighter anyway. Doesn't really have it on the feet. Doesn't really have the best wrestling. Doesn't really have the best grappling. Damian Garbowski was submitted by Marcin Tybura, the striker. So I think Grabowski is probably one of the worst heavyweights we've seen in the UFC roster in quite a long time. I'm just looking at his record now, and you can see how padded it is. That's a very misleading 20-4. I don't think the world of this guy whatsoever. And he's 37 years old. Chase Sherman's got a big size advantage here. Grabowski's 6'1". Chase Sherman's a nice big 6'4". I have a hard time seeing a path to victory for Damian Grabowski here, and that's funny to say because, like I said, I think Chase Sherman is a slightly below average heavyweight, but I love Sherman here. I think he can utilize those leg kicks, slow Grabowski down, and eventually put him away in that second round with punches to the face. So I'm going to go with Chase Sherman via a second round TKO, and I probably talked about that fight a little more than I should have just because it's such a jobber fight, but I wanted to talk about it because it is a very solid pick for myself. I really do quite like Chase Sherman here, and I will look to parlay him up maybe 1 or 2 units on the guy because I do like the fight for him a lot. So Chase Sherman second round TKO is the pick. Moving on here, we got Ryan Laflare 13-1 taking on Alex Cowboy Oliveira 17-4. So I'm a big fan of Cowboy Oliveira or Cowboy Oliveira. I mean, the guy's got great skills on the feet. Obviously, he's been working on that ground game. I'm impressed with the guy. He's good, but Ryan Laflare is no slouch, man. The dude can wrestle his ass off, and the dude can grapple. Like, not only can he get guys to the ground, but he can grapple down there too. To go and survive five-minute rounds with Damian Maia. That's just going 25 minutes with Damian Maia is a feather in the cap of Ryan Laflare. Not to mention some good wins he has against very solid fighters, like a good vet in Juan Carnero, like a good vet in Court McGee, like a rising contender like Santiago Ponzinibbio. So Ryan Laflare's got good wins on his record. He's got that amazing wrestling. I love to bet on wrestlers, and I don't see anything that shows me that Alex Oliveira can stuff the takedowns and get back to his feet, man. I like Ryan Laflare here via I'll say a wrestling-based decision. I'll say a 30-27 decision. I've seen Alex Oliveira get taken down by strikers like Tim Means. So when you get a real badass wrestler in here like Ryan Laflare, I don't see Cowboy being able to stuff the takedown. So I got Ryan Laflare here via 30-27, and I do think he's a very solid parlay piece as well. So moving on here, man, we got Rafael Natal, 21-8, taking on Eric Anders, 8-0. Eric Anders, the newcomer. So if you don't know Eric Anders, I've actually been paying attention to this guy for a long time. Shout out to Dan Levy of Half the Battle. He's always having him on his show. Gives great interviews. The dude's real awesome. Good personality, good mindset for the sport. Big fan of this guy, and he's got some good stuff going for him, man. The dude's real athletic. Actually won the college football championship as a linebacker for Alabama. Dude's a stud athlete. The dude's extremely explosive, and the dude's got power. And what I really like about him the most is he won that the LFA middleweight title in his last fight by going 25 minutes with a very, very tough, another up-and-comer guy. I forget guy's name. I do want to shout him out. I want to say his name's Brendan Allen. Brendan Allen, yeah. He's another tough up-and-coming guy. So Eric Anders, just another thing that impressed me about this guy as a prospect, the fact that he can go out and win a 25-minute decision. He's got decent cardio behind him. So now we got Rafael Natal here, man, who was originally supposed to fight Alessio Di Chicro. Honestly, man, I think Natal's a little bit past his prime here. He's on his way out. Eric Anders is on his way in. I think with that explosiveness, that athleticism, that big power, I think he can do what Tim Boetsch did to Rafael Natal in Rafael's last fight. I think he can put the hands on him and knock him out early. So maybe, I'm not really sure. I'm really interested to see where the lines are going to be on this fight, but I'm really hoping Eric Anders is the dog because I want some plus money on this guy. I got Eric Anders via a first-round KO. You heard it here first. And maybe I'll probably look stupid if Eric Anders comes out as a minus 200 favorite. But we'll see, man. I'm looking to get that dog money on Anders, and that's probably going to be the only way I bet him there is if he is plus money. But we'll see, man. I think Rafael Natal is going to be looking to get the fight to the ground, of course, and utilize that grappling-based game plan. But I think Eric Anders, he's going to be using that good movement, using his athleticism movement to stuff takedowns or even not even give Natal a chance to go in for a good takedown. So I think Anders catches him on the feet. First round KO for the newcomer. First round KO is the pick. So moving on here, man, interesting fight. I'm really looking forward to see how this one plays out. We got Lyman Good coming off that suspension. He was a naughty boy with that whatever he got caught for. Just look at the guy. The dude was obviously juicing. 19-3, taking on Eliezer Zaleski dos Santos, 16-5. So basically, this is brutish muscle, power, and strength versus the more athletic, more technically gifted guy in Eliezer Zaleski. And I'm going to go with Eliezer Zaleski here. I think there's some good things going for him in this fight. I think Lyman Good First fight coming off a suspension for popping hot, and it doesn't typically go well for guys after that happens to them, especially in a lighter weight class like 170. Eliezer Zaleski showed a lot of good things in the UFC thus far, being in fights down 2 rounds, showing off great cardio, and getting third-round TKOs over very tough opponents like Amari Akhmedov. And I think Eliezer Zaleski could possibly do something like that here. I think we're going to see probably Lyman good going out, looking for that big bomb in the early rounds, eventually getting tired. Eliezer Zaleski showing off what he has before, and that great cardio and determination, heart. And I think he could possibly get a third-round TKO here. If not a decision, I think he could possibly pick up the second and third round. But first round's going to be scary here because Lyman Good comes out like a madman. So I think Lyman Good's going to come out looking for that big knockout. Maybe he gets it, maybe not. But I side with Zaleski being able to weather the storm, win the second and third round, or even get that late TKO. So my official pick is going to be Eliezer Zaleski. I will say by third round TKO. And if he's the dog, I will probably have a unit or two on him as well. So moving on here to the main card, we got Jimmy Rivera, 20-1, taking on Thomas Almeida, 22-1. Just two amazing records going at it. Two amazing guys going at it here in the bantamweight division. Two of their up-and-coming prospects, and I think it's awesome that they made this fight. Now, there isn't any odds for it on the sites that I use, but I did see that there's some European sites that do have odds up on this fight. They have, from most of the sites I've seen, Jimmy Rivera, they have him as a minus 200 favorite, comeback on Almeida as a plus 166 underdog. So, man, I tend to agree with the odds makers here. I think Jimmy Rivera this is a good fight for him. I think he can win this fight. So Thomas Almeida, one big thing here, maybe it's not the determining factor, but Thomas Almeida typically is a slower starter, and Jimmy Rivera gets right off to it immediately. So I think that's tough for Thomas Almeida right there. I think Thomas Almeida, it's usually knockout or bust for him, and Jimmy Rivera, 20-1. I don't believe he's been knocked out. He got TKO'd by Dennis Bermudez on Tough, but I don't think that was I haven't seen that in forever. I don't believe that was a clean standing knockout. And not only that, that was at 145. Jimmy Rivera is actually undefeated at this weight class. His lone pro loss was at 150 pounds, but since then, been tearing it up undefeated at bantamweight. I think although Thomas Almeida is a very scary fighter with big power and tools in many aspects of the striking game, the punches, the kicks, the knees, I think Jimmy Rivera is more technical here, and I think he can put a boxing clinic on Thomas Almeida and maybe even put a big punch on his face and knock him out, because Thomas Almeida, it's kind of got a questionable chin, man. You know, he got rocked by Brad Pickett, a 2015 Brad Pickett who was probably even nearing retirement and thinking about retirement at that point. Brad Pickett was having his way with him at one point. Now, he did get that win, credit to him, but he was getting touched up by Brad, and then, of course, Cody Garbrandt was able to put him down with pretty much the first clean punch he landed on him. And Jimmy Rivera is a very stocky dude who has power behind him. He has knockouts in the UFC. I wouldn't be shocked at all if Jimmy Rivera went out and knocked out Thomas Almeida, but I think more than likely he outstrikes Thomas here over the course of 3 rounds. So I'm going to go with Jimmy Rivera. I will say a 30-27 decision. I think maybe he can even utilize a wrestling game plan here. I think if he really wants to, we might be able to go and take down Thomas Almeida. We'll see. Jimmy Rivera, he's a very smart fighter. He's got great fight IQ. I wouldn't shock me in the slightest if he goes out and tries to push Almeida against the cage and take him down, and I think he very well could do that. But even if not, I think he's got the more technical boxing. He can box up Thomas Almeida. So we'll see, man. It's a very interesting fight. Based on those odds, Jimmy Rivera minus 200, I'm for sure not playing that. So I'm probably just going to end up sitting and watching this one as a fan, and I'm very excited for it. So pick is Jimmy Rivera. Probably going to be passing from a betting perspective. So there it is, guys. Like Jimmy Rivera there, and that's probably my favorite fight on the card. So moving on here, we got Villante 15-8, taking on Patrick Cummins 9-4. Now we do have odds in these fights right now. Gian Villante minus 115, Patrick Cummins minus 105. I disagree with that line, man. I think Gian Villante should be a much bigger favorite here. I actually really like Gian Villante in this spot, man. So, of course, we all know Patrick Cummins has probably the worst chin in the UFC. Anytime somebody touches this guy, he goes down. I did bet him in his last fight against Jan Blachowicz, but that's just because I was so confident that Patrick would be able to survive the shots and out wrestle the guy with no takedown defense. But because I'm Jan Blachowicz for the 205 division, really, the dude really does have pillow fists. He's got one TKO/KO victory in like the last 7 years, and it was a body kick. And even then, he still hurt Patrick Cummins with the shots to the head. So Patrick Cummins really has a terrible chin. Gian Villante, and he's obviously going to be looking for the wrestling here, but Gian Villante has a wrestling background of his own and is a very good wrestler himself. So I think Gian Villante can absolutely sprawl and brawl here, and I do think he's the more technical striker with the bigger power, with the better chin. So I think he knocks out Patrick Cummins here early. I will say first-round KO for Gian Villante, and if it gets to those later rounds, I know people will talk about the cardio of Gian Villante. I don't think we have to worry about that here, man, because Patrick Cummins has some bad cardio of his own. So I really like this fight for Gian Villante, man, and looking at the odds, I don't think I want to bet Gian Villante at anything other than plus money, but looking at the in the distance prop, Villante wins in the distance at plus 155. I really kind of want to stay away from props, man, but we'll see. It's hard to bet on a guy like Gian Villante because he's let us down in the past, but I just love this matchup for him, man. So don't hate me if you see me put a bet on Gian Villante because I really like it. And if it loses, it is what it is. But my read on this fight, I love Villante here. So we'll see. I'll probably end up having some sort of play on Villante when it's all said and done. But moving on here, man, to the co-main event of the evening, we got Dennis the Menace Bermudez minus 250. Taking on Darren Elkins plus 210. So Darren Elkins coming off that amazing comeback against Mirsad Bektic, where Elkins was probably on his way to losing a 30-24 decision, man. So I think definitely people shouldn't have underrated Elkins there and kind of disrespected him, but I mean, in hindsight, the dude was on his way to getting 30-24. I think it was more of a case of people overrating Mirsad Bektic. The dude obviously has problems. Dude doesn't really have the best cardio. The dude doesn't really have the best chin. But I think you can make those same arguments against Dennis Bermudez. Dennis Bermudez is a very flawed fighter as well, who's been around for a while, who's probably on his way out. I'm not saying that's not the case for Darren Elkins. He's been around for a while on his way out as well, but I think he's sitting here at plus 210. I think Darren Elkins is starting to get disrespected a little bit again, man. And if the line gets a little bit better on Elkins, I'm going to have to take that 1 unit shot, man. So it probably is a good matchup for Dennis Bermudez, and he is rightfully so the favorite here. He typically does not lose against other wrestlers. Darren Elkins has been outgrinded in the past by other guys like Hawker Diaz, outgrappled Darren Elkins, and I think Dennis Bermudez can start off strong here and probably out-wrestle Darren Elkins. Maybe Darren Elkins pulls some tricks out of his hat and pulls off the second or third round. Maybe TKOs against Bermudez in the third round like he did in his last fight. We'll see, man. I would highly stay away from putting Dennis Bermudez in your parlays. I don't know how you can be confident in him here, man, but this is definitely a dog or pass situation. My pick is going to be Dennis Bermudez via decision, but I like Darren. I like a dog play on Darren Elkins here, man. I don't hate that at all, and I'm probably going to put it on him if the line gets better, and I'm guessing it does because it seems like time after time people underestimate Darren Elkins. He was underestimated in that Chas Skelly fight. He was underestimated in that Mirsad Bektic fight, and I think he's underestimated here because Dennis Bermudez has a lot of problems of his own, man. So although he is the rightful favorite, I think if the line gets better, a shot on Darren Elkins is absolutely warranted. So official pick, Dennis Bermudez, 29-28 decision, but definitely dog or pass situation here. So moving on to the main event of the evening. This is indeed the two plays that I do have so far. So we got Kelvin Gastelum minus 155 taking on Chris Weidman plus 135. I love Kelvin Gastelum here. I think this is a picture-perfect fight for him here, man. I love Kelvin. I'm just going to come out and say it. So I have 3 units on Kelvin straight at minus 132 to win 2.28 units. Then I have another 1 unit on Kelvin Gastelum wins in the distance at plus 170 to win 1.70 units. So 4 units running on Kelvin Gastelum here, man. So I love this fight for him, man. I'm so glad it's 5 rounds. That favors Kelvin a hell of a lot, man. So basically, how does Chris Weidman win this fight, man? So when it comes to the striking, Chris Weidman, he's got good hands, man. The dude's put together. He's worked on his boxing over the years, and his boxing has got better. The dude has good hands. But Kelvin Gastelum is way quicker, way more athletic, and simply has better hands. The striking should not even be close here. Kelvin Gastelum 100% can outstrike and outbox Chris Weidman here. Over the course of 5 rounds, if it even goes there, I tend to disagree that it will. But when it comes to the wrestling, obviously Chris Weidman's best potential game plan here would be to out-wrestle Kelvin Gastelum because he's the smaller guy, right? Honestly, man, I can't wait to see these stare downs because Chris Weidman is really not going to be much bigger than Kelvin Gastelum at all. It's really kind of pretty even. Kelvin Gastelum, he's a little bit smaller of a middleweight, but Chris Weidman's no big middleweight by any means. I would actually say Chris Weidman is slightly below average sized for a middleweight, man. So, man, I think even Kelvin Gastelum, he's got a wrestling background of his own. The dude can wrestle. He's won fights via wrestling. The dude can wrestle his ass off. Now, I rate Chris Weidman's wrestling a little better, but I think Kelvin Gastelum can stuff the takedowns. And if not, let's say for whatever reason, Chris Weidman's able to get Kelvin Gastelum down. Do you really think Chris Weidman with that cardio is going to be able to out wrestle Kelvin Gastelum over the course of 5 rounds? Maybe if it was 3 rounds, I could see people's points. Yeah, maybe Chris Weidman out wrestles him the first 2 rounds and picks up a 29-28 decision. But 5 rounds, guys, I don't see that at all. Chris Weidman has been gassing out every single fight lately, whether it's been the 2nd or 3rd round, it's been happening there. And we've seen Kelvin Gastelum be putting motherfuckers out in the 3rd round. Knocked out Tim Kennedy in the 3rd round. Another guy who's bigger than him, another guy who's a better wrestler than him, a guy that was able to take him down. So I'm confident in knowing that even if Chris Weidman can take Kelvin down, Kelvin Gastelum can come back and knock him out in the later rounds like he's done before, like has happened to Chris Weidman before, being knocked out in the later rounds because of him getting tired. So I love Kelvin here, man. I think he stuffs takedowns anyway. That's just me. Maybe he doesn't, but even if he doesn't, I think he gets it done anyway. But I think Kelvin stuffs the takedowns, outstrikes Weidman over the course of a few rounds, and then I'll say gets that 3rd round TKO. I love Kelvin here. Obviously, I have 1 unit in the distance. I think he does get it done in the distance. I don't see Weidman being able to last 5 rounds here, but wouldn't be completely shocked if it went to 5. But if it goes to 5, it's going to be a Kelvin Gastelum victory. I have such a hard time seeing Chris Weidman getting the victory here. I think Kelvin Gastelum should be lined a little bit more like minus 250 in the spot, if I'm being quite honest. I actually haven't looked at Kelvin wins in the distance in quite a long time. I wonder what the line on that is now. Plus 139, so I did beat the line movement on that by a bit, man. So, yeah, I love Kelvin here, man. Most confident pick on the card, in my opinion, I'd say. Maybe him or Timothy Johnson. Let me just look at these picks. Most confident picks of the card would definitely be Kelvin Gastelum, Timothy Johnson. It's definitely those two, man. It's definitely those two. Probably Ryan Laflare's up there as well. But yeah, man, 4 units on Kelvin Gastelum, 3 units straight, 1 on the in the distance. So That's going to be it for me, guys. That is the card. Oh, I completely forgot. So tonight's Dana White's Tuesday Night Contender Series, the second installment of that, and I do have a play. If you guys were following me, you know that I did have 1 unit on Boston Salmon in last week's episode of that show at plus 160. He came through for me, and I do yet again have another 1 unit dog play. I have 1 unit on Lazar Stoya Dinovic, I believe that's how you say, Lazar Stojadinovic at plus 125 to win 1.25 units. Love Lazar there, man. Lazar's a very, very good boxer. He's putting in work at American Top Team, so he's working on that grappling and ground game. Tom Lee, on the other hand, he himself is also a very good striker, maybe even a little bit better of a striker than Lazar. I think Lazar has the better hands than Tom Lee, but when it comes to the overall striking, Tom Lee has very good kicks, so he's probably the better striker than Lazar by a tiny bit. But the problem with this Tom Lee guy, 0 ground game, 0 wrestling. So I think if Lazar can utilize a game plan to where he mixes in some takedowns and grappling with his boxing, he's going to go out there and win this fight 100%. And I think working with American Top Team, 100% he can. So I love Lazar Stojadinovic here. 1 unit plus 125. He's actually plus 130 now. So I know a lot of you guys tailed me on Boston Salmon last week, and a lot of you guys thanked me for that. So you're very welcome. And I would highly recommend a 1 unit play on Lazar tonight if you're watching this video here on Tuesday, the 18th. That fight's tonight in about 5 hours. So 1 unit Lazar. So that's going to do it for me, guys. I appreciate you sticking around very, very much. This was, as always, very fun to do. This ran pretty late, about 40 minutes, but love talking fights with you guys, man. So big good lucks to you guys with your bets this week, and I hope you all cash. I'm looking to get back in that win column as well. Of course, follow my Twitter for updates on my bets because, like I said and have been alluding to this whole video, odds aren't out yet, but I'm for sure going to have quite a few plays on this card, looking to bounce back big, and I'm very confident in those guys that I mentioned, man. So thank you guys all so much. You can follow my bets at Bet MMA Tips, MMA Kelton, and Capper Tech, MMA Kelton. Subscribe to the channel. All kinds of fun shit coming. I can't wait to do that roundtable next week for UFC 14. Like the video, it takes 2 seconds. Comment below, tell me who you are thinking about betting on in this card, or if you're watching it later in the week and you got some bets down, tell me who you're already betting on, who you're planning on betting on. Let's get a conversation going in that comment box, guys. So thank you all very much. I appreciate it more than anything, guys. And that's going to do it for me. Appreciate you. Enjoy the fights.